My brothers and my sisters, I want to talk to you today about a subject that too many people either avoid or misunderstand. Sex, yes, I said it's sex. Not just from the world's perspective, not just from culture's distorted lens, but from a deep and real perspective that speaks to the heart of men. Because hear me, how a man views sex is not just about pleasure. It's about purpose. It's about responsibility. It's about identity. The problem is too many men have been shaped by culture instead of by covenant. Too many have been trained by the streets instead of the scriptures. But today, I want to reset the perspective to bring truth to a topic that has been twisted. Let's break this down into 6 key points. Sex is not just a physical act, it is a spiritual transaction. Too often in today's culture, we have reduced sex to a moment of pleasure, a casual interaction, or a mere exchange between 2 consenting adults. But God never designed sex to be just a bodily function. He created it to be a sacred connection, a covenantal bond between a man and a woman. That's why when people engage in sex outside of its divine purpose, they often feel something lingering beyond the physical. Because whether we acknowledge it or not, every time sex takes place, there is an unseen exchange happening. One that goes deeper than the flesh and reaches into the very soul. The Bible says in Genesis 2:24, "For this reason a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh." That phrase, one flesh, is not just talking about bodies coming together. It is talking about a spiritual fusion, an intertwining of 2 lives at the deepest level. This is why sex was never meant to be casual, because the human spirit was never designed to be torn apart over and over again. When a man and a woman engage in sex, they are bonding beyond what they can see. The soul ties that form in the process are real, and this is why so many people struggle to walk away from toxic relationships, even when they know they should. It is because their spirits have been knit together in a way that cannot be undone by mere willpower. So, okay, this is from Sweeney Todd. Have you ever wondered why, after engaging in sex, emotions intensify? Why a person who once seemed ordinary suddenly becomes an obsession? It is because sex is not just physical, it is covenantal. It was designed to seal a union, not just to satisfy an urge. That's why when sex happens outside of marriage, it can often bring confusion, guilt, attachment, and pain. When something sacred is used outside of its sacred design, it loses its intended purpose and begins to cause harm. This is why God, in his wisdom, placed sex within the protected boundary of marriage, not to restrict pleasure, but to preserve its power. The enemy knows the power of sex. That's why he works so hard to distort it. He wants to disconnect the spiritual from the physical so that people misuse and abuse what was meant to be holy. He promotes lust over love, casual encounters over covenant, pleasure over purpose, because he knows that when sex is misused, it can bring destruction, addiction, and deep emotional wounds. But when sex is honored in its rightful place, it brings joy, unity, and divine intimacy. Sex is not just about what happens in the bedroom. It is about what happens in the heart, the soul, and the spirit. When we understand this, we begin to see that true intimacy is not just about 2 bodies coming together. It is about 2 souls becoming one in the presence of God. From the time a boy becomes a man, society begins to send him messages about his identity. Messages that are often rooted in performance, dominance, and conquest. One of the most dangerous lies that men are taught is that their worth is tied to their sexual experiences. From locker room talk to media portrayals, men are conditioned to believe that their ability to attract, pursue, and conquer women is a measure of their masculinity. This mindset is ingrained so deeply that many men unconsciously connect their self-esteem, confidence, and identity to their sexual achievement. For many men, sex is not just about pleasure. It becomes a form of validation. It is a way to prove something to themselves and to others. The world has equated manhood with sexual success, pushing the idea that the more women a man sleeps with, the more of a man he is. This creates a dangerous cycle where men begin to chase sex not out of love, intimacy, or connection, but out of a need to affirm their own worth. This is why some men will pursue multiple relationships, chase after women they don't even care about, and find themselves addicted to lust because their sense of identity has been falsely attached to their ability to perform sexually. The problem with this mindset is that it creates an unstable foundation for manhood. If a man believes that his worth is found in sex, then he is constantly seeking external validation for something that can only be settled internally. If his identity is based on how many women he can attract, then he will always feel the need to prove himself, leading to an endless pursuit that never truly satisfies. The Bible warns against this kind of thinking in Proverbs 6:26, which says, "For by means of a harlot, a man is reduced to a crust of bread." In other words, when a man chases sex for the wrong reasons, he is diminished. His true worth is reduced to nothing more than temporary satisfaction. This false identity also leads to emotional disconnection. When a man is taught to see sex as a conquest rather than a covenant, he begins to view women as objects rather than partners. He learns to chase the high of the moment rather than the depth of a meaningful relationship. Over time, this mindset can make it difficult for him to experience true intimacy because he has been conditioned to associate sex with power rather than vulnerability. The truth is, real manhood is not defined by how many women a man sleeps with. It is defined by his ability to lead, to love, and to live with integrity. A man's worth is not found in his sexual conquest, but in his character. When a man understands this, he no longer needs to prove himself through physical encounters. He is secure in who he is, whether he is in a relationship or not. God never designed a man's identity to be rooted in sex. He designed it to be rooted in him. When a man finds his worth in God, he no longer seeks validation in temporary pleasures. He walks in purpose, confidence, and true strength. A man can have all the sex in the world and still feel empty. He can be with different women night after night, yet something deep inside him remains unfulfilled. Society has glorified the pursuit of pleasure, convincing men that the more sexual experiences they have, the more satisfied they will be. But the truth is, sex without intimacy is like drinking salt water. It may quench the thirst for a moment, but it ultimately leaves a man more dehydrated than before. The reason for this emptiness is that sex was never meant to be just a physical act. It was designed by God to be a deep, intimate connection between two people who are committed to each other in love and covenant. When sex happens without that foundation, it loses its power to satisfy. Instead of bringing fulfillment, it leaves behind a void, a longing for something greater than momentary pleasure. That's why so many men, despite their experiences, find themselves feeling lonely, disconnected, and even regretful after the passion fades. This is the deception of lust. It promises satisfaction but never delivers. It tells a man that if he just has one more encounter, one more conquest, one more thrill, then he will finally feel complete. But it's a lie. Sex outside of intimacy does not build a man up, it drains him. It takes from him more than it gives. It feeds an appetite that only grows hungrier with every indulgence. And the more a man feeds it, the more he realizes that what he truly craves is not just sex, but connection, love, and understanding. A man who continually engages in sex without intimacy often finds himself emotionally detached. He begins to see sex as a transaction rather than a bond. He may think he is in control, but in reality he is becoming numb, unable to connect on a deeper level, unable to truly love or be loved. Over time, this detachment can make it difficult for him to commit, to trust, or to experience real intimacy in a meaningful relationship. He may try to convince himself that he is fine, that he enjoys the freedom of no strings attached encounters, but in his quiet moments, he knows something is missing. The truth is, sex was designed to be more than physical. It was meant to be emotional, spiritual, and relational. When a man engages in sex within the safety of love and commitment, it does not leave him empty, it fills him. It strengthens him. It builds a connection that satisfies his soul, not just his body. That's why men who experience true intimacy in marriage describe a depth of satisfaction that casual encounters could never provide. No amount of sex can replace the need for real intimacy. And until a man understands this, he will continue searching for something that sex alone can never give him. True fulfillment comes not just from being with someone physically, but from being known, valued, and loved in a way that goes far beyond the moment. Lust is a hunger that is never fully satisfied. No matter how much it is fed, it always craves more. It whispers the lie that just one more experience, one more encounter, or one more thrill will finally bring fulfillment, but it never does. Lust is like a fire that only grows stronger the more you fuel it. What starts as a small spark quickly becomes an uncontrollable blaze, consuming everything in its path. This is why lust is so dangerous. It doesn't stop with one look, one thought, or one indulgence. It always pushes for more. What once seemed exciting quickly becomes ordinary, and so the appetite increases. A man who once found satisfaction in small things now needs something greater to achieve the same thrill. This is why lust often leads to addiction. What begins as an innocent curiosity can soon spiral into an unquenchable craving that dominates a man's thoughts, actions, and decisions. Proverbs 27:20 warns us, hell and destruction are never full, so the eyes of man are never satisfied. The eyes are the gateway to desire, and the more they are given to lust, the more they demand. A man who gives himself over to lust will never feel complete because lust does not know contentment. It is restless, always searching, always demanding, always taking, but never giving anything of true value in return. Lust also distorts reality. It makes a man believe that if he just gets what he wants, he will finally be happy. But the moment he gets it, the satisfaction is fleeting. It is like chasing the wind. He may run after it, but he will never grasp it. Instead of bringing fulfillment, lust leaves behind regret, guilt, and an even greater emptiness than before. This is why many men who indulge in pornography, affairs, or casual encounters often find themselves feeling more isolated and disconnected over time. They expected pleasure, but what they received was a deeper longing that could not be satisfied. The truth is, lust is a counterfeit. It imitates passion, but it lacks love. It imitates desire, but it lacks commitment. It promises joy, but it brings despair. Unlike love, which seeks to give and build, lust only takes and destroys. A man who is ruled by lust is never truly free because he is always in bondage to his desires. The more he indulges, the stronger the chains become. But there is hope. The only way to break free from the cycle of lust is to replace it with something greater. True satisfaction does not come from chasing fleeting pleasures, but from living in purpose and purity. When a man shifts his focus from temporary gratification to lasting fulfillment, he begins to experience true freedom. Love, commitment, and self-restraint bring the kind of joy that lust could never provide. A man who conquers lust is a man who reclaims his strength. Instead of being led by his desires, he leads his desires. And in doing so, he finds what he was truly searching for all along. Not another fleeting moment, but real peace, real love, and real satisfaction. True love transforms sex from a mere physical act into something deeply meaningful. In a world where lust is mistaken for love and pleasure is pursued without purpose, many people fail to experience the depth that true intimacy brings. Sex, when separated from love, can become hollow, just an act, just a moment, just another experience. But when it is rooted in love, trust, and commitment, it becomes something sacred, something fulfilling, something that nourishes both the body and the soul. Love is what gives sex its deepest meaning, because love is not just about what you can get, it's about what you can give. When a man truly loves a woman, he does not see her as an object to satisfy his desires, but as a partner to cherish, honor, and protect. In true love, sex is not just about physical pleasure, it is about emotional connection, spiritual unity, and mutual fulfillment. It is about two people coming together, not just in body, but in heart, in mind, and in purpose. This is why God designed sex to take place within the covenant of marriage, not because he wanted to restrict people, but because he wanted to protect the beauty and power of intimacy. In marriage, sex is more than a fleeting moment. It is a continuous act of love, a deep expression of commitment that strengthens the bond between husband and wife. It becomes a place of safety where two people can be completely vulnerable with each other without fear, without shame, and without regret. Contrast this with sex that happens outside of love and commitment. When sex is disconnected from love, it often leads to confusion, heartache, and emotional detachment. Instead of bringing two people closer together, it can sometimes push them further apart. Many people have experienced the pain of giving themselves physically to someone who was never truly committed to them. They expected closeness, but instead they felt used. They sought intimacy, but instead they felt distant. This is because sex alone cannot create the security and trust that only true love can provide. True love makes sex meaningful because true love is built on more than desire. It is built on respect, selflessness, and a deep care for the other person's well-being. In a relationship rooted in love, sex is not rushed or demanded. It is cherished and valued. It is not selfish. It is sacrificial. It is not just about what feels good in the moment. It is about what builds a lasting connection. It is the inner. When sex is experienced within true love, it has the power to strengthen a relationship rather than weaken it. It deepens trust, fosters unity, and brings joy that is not just temporary, but lasting. Love takes what the world has cheapened and restores its value. And when a man understands this, he no longer chases meaningless encounters. He seeks something greater, something real, something that will not just satisfy his body, but also fulfill his heart. Sexual brokenness is a reality that many people struggle with, whether through past mistakes, unhealthy relationships, addiction, or experiences that left them wounded. The enemy loves to use shame to keep people trapped in cycles of guilt and regret, convincing them that they are too far gone, too damaged, or too unworthy of true healing. But the truth is, God is a redeemer. No matter what has happened, no matter how deep the wounds, no matter how far someone has strayed, God's grace is greater. He is able to heal, restore, and bring new life to what feels broken beyond repair. One of the biggest lies the enemy tells people is that their past defines them. Many people carry the weight of sexual sin, feeling like they can never be pure again, like they can never experience real love, or like they are disqualified from God's best. But in Isaiah 1:18, God says, "Though your sins are like scarlet, they shall be as white as snow." This means that God does not just forgive, he completely washes away the past. He does not see his children through the lens of their failures. He sees them through the lens of his grace. Sexual brokenness can come in many forms. Some people have given themselves away to unhealthy relationships, thinking that love could be found in sex, only to be left heartbroken and empty. Others have battled addiction to lust or pornography, feeling trapped in a cycle they cannot escape. Some have experienced deep wounds from abuse or betrayal, leaving them feeling unworthy of real love. But regardless of the source of brokenness, God is able to heal. He is able to take the shattered pieces and make something beautiful out of them. Healing begins with surrender. The first step in redemption is bringing everything before God, the regrets, the pain, the struggles, the shame, and allowing him to restore what was lost. Many people try to fix themselves first before coming to God, but the truth is only he has the power to truly heal. Psalm 140, 173 says, "He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds." This means that God does not just remove sin. He brings healing to the hurt it caused. He restores purity, dignity, and wholeness. God's redemption is not just about erasing the past. It is about transforming the future. He can turn pain into purpose, using past experiences to help others find healing. He can replace shame with confidence, replacing guilt with the knowledge of his unfailing love. No one is too broken for God to redeem. No mistake is too great for his grace. No wound is too deep for his healing. When a person surrenders their brokenness to him, they will find that he is not only able to restore, but to make all things new. What seemed lost can be redeemed. What seemed damaged can be made whole, because with God, nothing is beyond repair. Men, hear me. Today, sex is not just physical, it's powerful. It is not just about what happens in the moment, it's about what happens in the spirit. It is time for us to stop letting culture define manhood and start letting Christ refine us. We don't need more men using sex as validation. We need more men walking in purity and purpose. We don't need more casual hookups. We need more covenant relationships. Because real men don't chase lust, Real men chase purpose. Let the church say amen.